Hi everyone, it's a ticket to Christ. We've been talking about all forms of deceit, just really what to look out for, what it looks like. I think a lot of times people are not really mindful that God takes deceit very, very seriously. It says in Revelation 21, verse 8, all liars will go to hell, right? And so, and it used the word all. So we really want to understand every type of deceit so that we're not walking in deceit ourselves, especially since the Lord warned us that in the last days, in end times, that there will be a lot of deceit. It would abound, right? And so we're looking at deceit in the workplace. Deceit, when people speak deceitfully and make promises and vows and deal deceitfully in work things, or in even when you hire somebody to do a job, fix something, right? Them dealing deceitfully. People who bill you too much money, cheat. You go to the doctor, they charge you $400 for a 10-minute session and then bill you. And then the insurance doesn't, all of these areas of deceit we're seeing, and we need to know that that's deceit so that we don't participate in that. We're in Genesis chapter 29. We're going to pick up, this is the story of Laban and Jacob. And I wanted to just narrow in narrowly on this from verse 13. It says, and it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother, shouldst thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for a handmaid. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah, and he said to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. So let's pause there. And we see just the deceitfulness of Laban. But when you think about it, Jacob, who had deceived his own brother and had to run for his life as a result of it, is now running into a deceiver himself, right? So we see, just when you read, if you study through the whole account of Jacob, it will give you a good understanding of what to do, what not to do, in terms of how you deal with people. Because how he dealt with Esau was very deceitful, very, wrong. And here he's coming into Laban, his uncle, who is heard what happened and is also conniving, right? And so what is jumping out at you? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? For me, what I'm getting is, first of all, Laban's words meant nothing, right? He makes rash promises, and it's of no value because he's not a righteous man. He's not of God, right? When you read on and study out Laban, you see he was worshiping these false idols, these little statues, and he didn't have the heart for God or a right understanding of God. He seemed to be a very greedy man, and no care for his daughters, no mercy, no compassion for them. And so he didn't have integrity, and deceived Jacob, entered into an agreement with Jacob that he, from the get-go, broke. So he lied. He made a covenant with Jacob that he broke. So the covenant was verse 19 through 20. I give you to her, Jacob said for Rachel. He says, I will serve you for Rachel, your younger daughter. And Laban had agreed. So that's a covenant. When you, in those days, your word, what you agreed to, you should abide by, right? So you see how low a character Laban had. But Jacob met his end of the bargain. Now people, you always wonder, well, how come he didn't know it was Rachel? I'm sure they must have covered them up in those cloths, put everything over her head, and she probably didn't say anything. She was probably threatened and told, don't say anything until the morning, right? So imagine Jacob working 7 years, and the day that he's going to get his bride, how excited he must have been, how happy, how satisfied, and then to wake up that morning to be so disappointed. And imagine Leah, her role, just feeling like a sitting duck. And we have to go back to the culture of the time. So for that culture at that time, women were like property. So her value was in her ability to carry on the lineage. So for her, it might have been an opportunity to advance her life, to advance her lineage, and to secure her, to get security, right? To get provision. So it's not like how we view it today. It was very different back then. And then, of course, we see then Laban makes good on the promise with with Rachel after that. But then Jacob had to work 7 more years to get that. And so that is how, when people deceive other people, it causes a lot of problems and chaos. You see, it caused a wedge between the two sisters, Leah and Rachel. There was this competitiveness. You see the children, even the confusion between the 12 sons as a result of this. One of the sons got sold into slavery. That was Joseph. You see just the fracture and the hardship that was brought to Jacob as a result of the lie of Laban right here. And Jacob himself, his character had to be built, because he himself was a liar initially. And God had to mold his character and to change him, to bring him into a position to carry the mantle that he had promised Abraham, right? So we see here, if the takeaway, I think, for us as Christians is, when you're dealing with people, if you're providing a service for a person, make sure that you're providing a good service and that you're not overcharging for it. First of all, when you're showing up on the job, make sure you're giving your best, that you're not stealing from the company through showing up late and giving half-hearted and then taking your paycheck, right? Don't take money for something you did not earn, right? Unless, of course, God is blessing you with something that's very different, but in a sneaky way. Christians should not be cheating on their taxes. Christians should not be lying on their resume or exaggerating on it, saying that they have skills they did not have, right? Christians should be honest, have integrity. When you show up to work, you do your job, you do what you provide, within the boundaries of the company. The company isn't expecting you to just be sitting at your chair 8 hours nonstop. Of course, they expect you to have conversations with colleagues, eat lunch, and things like that. But I'm talking about in the sense of what you're producing, that it should be the best you can give, the best you can do. right? So you don't want to be stealing supplies from your company. I once worked for a company, and this man said he was a Christian, and he was using the company stationery to reproduce church material. I mean, a lot. That's stealing. You should not be doing that. He just thought it was there and he could just reproduce his church's material, and that's what he was doing. That is theft. We have to have a high standard at the workplace, and we should not be cheating people. And if we say we're going to do something, we should do it. Our word should have a high bond to it. If you say something, your word should be your bond. And Jacob's word, I believe, had integrity. Jacob had integrity in the sense of his word was his bond. But he also dealt in a slick way with Laban when he realized who he was dealing with, right? So this is a good one to study through when it comes to deceit. Looking at from Esau and Jacob from the get-go, how that was done. We saw that first, in order to deceive Esau spiritually successfully, he had to first get the blessing. And because Esau did not value his spiritual heritage, he valued immediate gratification. He lost that blessing because the blessing is irrevocable. And so Esau did not value that, right? And sold it for a bowl of lentil soup. And so once you don't value spiritual things, you don't value your walk with God, you're going to be prone to deception. Once you don't value your relationship with God sufficient, but you value physical gratification or the things of this world, vanity and pride or glory or approval of people, you're going to be like Esau, subject to deception, because once he gave away that blessing, once he sold that for that bowl of lentil soup, spiritually, then it allowed Jacob and his mother to deceive him. Then he's able to fall prey to a powerful deception and delusion. And so I think studying that out will also help you get an understanding spiritually so that you take your relationship with God very seriously and don't compromise on it in any way. So beloved, that is it from me. I'll have those scriptures dropped below. I hope it blesses you, gives you food for thought in some small way. Have a great day.